Inside Singapore's towering high-rise apartments, a generation of elders is living alone, requiring continuous clinical monitoring to stay safe within their homes. These are the citizens who built the nation's infrastructure and established its first institutions. They are now the primary subjects of a new technological experiment. To protect them, we are increasingly turning to artificial intelligence. But current clinical AI introduces a specific systemic vulnerability. We are beginning to surrender life or death decisions to probabilistic software algorithms. Deploying unchecked software into these environments creates a risk that the system's drive for efficiency will eventually override the safety and dignity of the people it was designed to monitor. Consider a nurse on the 11th hour of a grueling shift. Physically drained and mentally overextended, they remain responsible for every automated alert. When a machine flashes a recommendation, a fatigued caregiver reflexively clicks Approve. They haven't evaluated the data. They've submitted to the machine's momentum. This strips autonomy from both caregiver and patient, valuing operational speed over genuine human oversight. Digital rules are too easily bypassed during a crisis or a long shift. To fix this, we have to move past software sandboxes and look towards solutions engineered into the physical hardware itself. This shift is defined by the Nightingale Anchor Protocol. Instead of software that guesses probabilities, this framework uses hardware that enforces deterministic rules. The elder's room is a sanctuary with 3 constraints: 0 cameras, 0 audio, and 0 cloud connectivity. The system monitors via LiDAR, generating mathematical points to detect the physics of a fall, capturing spatial geometry rather than visual pixels or audio waveforms. Processed locally on an edge computing processor right in the room, it triggers an emergency alert in exactly 1.7 seconds. Privacy here is a physical law. Because the hardware lacks an optical lens or an internet connection, it is architecturally impossible for the system to capture or leak a compromising image. But hardware speed creates a new problem. How do we prevent that exhausted caregiver from clicking Approve without thinking? The solution is a hardware-etched delay. When an anomaly is detected, the circuit triggers a mandatory pause. The machine physically suspends the workflow and stops accepting user input, remaining completely static regardless of how many times a nurse clicks. This intentional friction snaps the clinician out of a reactive trance. It forces them to wait for the machine, transitioning them from a state of mindless clicking to one of conscious medical reflection. Once the caregiver is focused, they must prove their physical presence and intent to the machine before it allows any intervention to proceed. This requires 3 simultaneous physical inputs: an iris scan, hand engagement with a console sensor, and the activation of a kinetic foot pedal. If all 3 aren't provided at once, the screen remains blank. As a final safeguard, a Safety Integrity Level 3 controller monitors the AI against a hard-coded script. It tracks every mechanical movement within a 6-axis matrix. If the AI deviates from its script by even 0.05 millimeters, a hydraulic circuit triggers an irreversible mechanical lock. The hardware is physically immobilized. Since software updates cannot bypass a physical hydraulic lock, the final decision-making power remains anchored in the human operator. This framework effectively demotes the AI to a secondary role. The machine is restricted to observation and advice, while the human retains the exclusive power to act. Hospital environments usually prioritize operational metrics, like infection rates or bed turnover speeds. The Elder Dignity Score changes that priority. It measures success through spatial anonymity and behavioral naturalism, proving that we can maintain patient safety without resorting to invasive surveillance. An AI may reach 99% diagnostic accuracy, but it cannot quantify a patient's religious beliefs or the promises they've made to their family. Because a single algorithmic error in a clinic or a spacecraft can be fatal, this doctrine treats any loss of human agency as a total failure of the system. As AI enters our most private spaces, we must decide whether to surrender our choices to the momentum of software or to engineer human sovereignty directly into the physical hardware of our future. Your elderly parent needs help around the house, so you bring in an automated robotic assistant. It's incredibly capable, fetching a glass of water, helping them stand up, or reaching high shelves. But bringing a strong, internet-connected machine into a home raises two immediate worries. First, what if an outside attacker takes control and causes the robot to move recklessly? Second, how do you prevent the cameras guiding the robot from turning a private living room into a broadcasted surveillance feed? Usually, we try to solve these problems with software, firewalls, passwords, and encryption. The problem is that software is just code, and code, no matter how complex, is ultimately just a set of instructions that a clever enough attacker can rewrite, bypass, or trick. To truly protect a vulnerable person, we have to stop fighting software with more software. We have to fight it with physical reality. This approach relies on something called an integrated deterministic enclosure. Digital rules can be broken by a hacker, but the laws of physics are absolute. This system is designed so that if the hardware is physically unable to perform a dangerous action, the software running it simply cannot force it to happen. Imagine that worst-case scenario happens. Malicious code slips past the firewall and tells the robotic arm to swing wildly. In a standard software setup, the arm swings dangerously. But here, the physical arm stops dead in its tracks. This barrier between digital commands and the motors is the hardware enforcement anchor, shown on the left. It acts as a mechanical gatekeeper, setting hardwired limits on movement. Pushing past these boundaries triggers a hydrostatic lock, filling with fluid, instantly freezing the system. Because this lock is fluid-based and entirely mechanical, a remote attacker has no way to negotiate with it. Once the chamber pressurizes, the gears are physically incapable of turning, regardless of what the hacked software is screaming at them to do. This physical veto happens instantly, without needing permission from any computer program. It is hardware asserting absolute authority over software. Now, what about the other concern? To care for someone properly, the system needs to know where they are and if they've fallen, but nobody wants a live video feed of their parents' bedroom running all day. Traditional camera lenses are a risk. The moment a lens captures a recognizable face or an intimate room, it creates a digital file, and any digital file can eventually be stolen or leaked. The solution is privacy by physics. In the observation domain, traditional cameras are missing. Instead, LiDAR bounces light off objects, creating a 3D map of anonymous dots. Using these dots to detect falls, the system generates an elder dignity score, ensuring safety without the indignity of cameras. Even if a malicious user gains total control of this monitoring system, they won't find any video to steal. You can't hack a camera lens that doesn't exist. Privacy is baked into the hardware's very design. The monitoring tools simply lack the physical components required to capture or transmit a private image. Managing all these physical locks and privacy sensors requires a central brain, known as the Guardian Control Core, which protects itself by splitting the network into isolated zones. Think of the internal network like a submarine. If a leak springs in one room, heavy watertight doors immediately slam shut to keep the rest of the ship from sinking. This system does the exact same thing with digital threats. As we see in this framework, the core operates on a zero-trust basis. Every zone is gated off, meaning the systems that talk to the internet are permanently separated from the systems that control the robot's physical motors. By keeping those communication channels strictly separated, the vault containing the robot's physical movement controls remains welded shut against outside digital interference. All these physical boundaries serve one purpose: ensuring the human operator remains entirely in control. Major changes require a hardware commit. A human must be physically present to provide biometric approval, creating a physical link no remote software can fake. As we invite advanced automation into our homes to care for our families, we cannot afford to trust just the flexibility of code. We have to anchor our trust in the unbending reality of physics. By building machines that are physically constrained from causing harm and structurally incapable of spying, we ensure that digital brains are always kept safely on physical tracks, leaving humans firmly in charge.